Hello and welcome to The Big Fight. It has been a week that once again seemed to be dominated by a big fight between the army chief and the government, and then there were statements that perhaps this is not quite what it was and everyone's blown it out of proportion. So while that particular argument or feud or fight, or call it what you like, is simmering or settling down as the case might be, we are today going to turn our attention to a slightly bigger question. The entire major issue that has been raised by this on the question of defense preparedness. Are we okay with that? Are our systems fine? Is the way we are procuring arms all right? Should we have slightly more streamlined systems of procurement? That's really the subject that we are going to discuss, with the health warning, obviously, that we're not going to be looking at any matters that might affect national security one way or the other. And I have to say, we have an absolutely fantastic panel with us right here to take us through all of the issues. And we'll start from here. Ajay Shukla, defense analyst, wonderful to have you with us. Saikat Datta, bureau chief at DNA, one of the people who's really brought this particular row out into the open. Mr. T.S.R. Subramaniam, former cabinet secretary to the government of India. You, sir, know perhaps better than any of us how the entire system works. So whatever you can tell us without breaching official secrets, do tell us. Praveen Swami, associate editor at The Hindu, knows, I have to say, almost as much as to what's happening inside government. So
much less.
He's not completely covered by official secrets either, so we'll try and get some details out of him. Air Marshal Fali Major, it's a pleasure always, sir, to have you with us as former Air Chief of Staff. Prakash Javadekar, wonderful that you could join us, and Lieutenant General Vijay Oberoi, defense analyst, and in a couple of minutes, Renuka Chaudhary is also going to be coming in, former Union Minister, to tell us what the Congress and the government makes of all of this. But can I just first start with the overall basic question, which I think people are concerned about? You can have arguments between the army chief and the government, and there are issues that are thrown up by this, including corruption. But what a lot of people are worried about is, are we really prepared, or is there a question over that? Can I ask you that question first?
Any armed force anywhere in the world is always prepared. And it is prepared based on what equipment profile they have, and not what they're going to get or what they wish to get. So all your plans are made as per your present holdings and not what is in the pipeline. Having said that, let me also add that all armed forces modernize in a very similar manner. We are no different.
Is it a chaotic manner right now?
I'll come to that.
Inefficient, incompetent, chaotic?
No, I wouldn't say that. Any equipment, military equipment, whether it's an aeroplane, a tank, a ship, or a submarine, is not an item which you pick off from a departmental store like a refrigerator. They have huge gestation periods. And therefore, what is more important to be prepared at all times is proper perspective planning, giving due thought to the environment you live in, your likely adversaries, and what their capabilities are. And therefore, if you go back a few years, the Indian Armed Forces as such reverted from the old threat-based acquisitions to a capability-based acquisition. And when you go in for a capability-based acquisition of military hardware, it takes longer than a threat-based system.
Okay.
You don't react, here you're planning ahead.
Okay. Lieutenant General Oberoi, do you agree with what he said?
No, I think the chief is playing down the problem. The problem
Playing
is...
down the problem?
Yes, the problem is massive. What the chief, the army chief, has stated in this, whatever has come out in the newspapers and so on, is exactly, absolutely correct. We are a hollow military. And if we are a hollow military, then while what he stated about the operational preparedness with what you have is correct, but is that the way to arm the military of a country which everybody is saying is going to be in the ranks of the superpowers in another 20 years or 30 years? I'm sorry, I disagree with it. No worthwhile modernization has taken place in the last 15 years.
I agree on one point, that for a very large period of time, there was an acquisition vacuum, acquisition holiday in the country. But In recent times, at least when I took over as the chief and just before that, I can very confidently say that there is a determined effort to modernize the armed forces. The pace, the way it is being done, could be debated, but there is definitely an attempt to modernize the armed forces.
Praveen?
I find the fact that the general and the former air chief have this difference, and I think it reflects their specific institutional cultures. I think we need to understand that in our armed forces, things have gone in quite different directions for the three forces. The Navy's done, looking at standing committee reports on which you've been part author of, Mr. Javadekar. Navy's done quite well. Hulls are being built for ships which will be created 20 years from now. The Air Force has just, again, done reasonably well, though there have been problems and so on and so forth, which every force in the world has.
Which many people say was a good way to do things.
The Army's done very, very badly, and the General's perfectly right. There are serious problems. Basic equipment which should be in place is not in place. And there is a real problem. And I think one of the things we need to have an honest conversation about, and do not have a conversation about, is why this is the case. The second thing I'd like to say is that there's nothing explosive or revelatory in what the chief has said. One of the sadder features, and I think we in the media need to take some responsibility for this, is every single point's documented in parliamentary standing committee report, after standing committee report, after standing committee report. And every time the media, instead of looking seriously at these problems, thinks it is patriotic to somehow hush these things up. This happened in 1999 in the Kargil War, where there were terrible failures in equipment, in generalship, in intelligence, in strategic thinking. But in this haze of patriotism, we hushed it up. We have not learned to have a serious conversation about these things, and it's time we started. That, to me, is the real lesson of this affair.
Do you have the NDTV Profit app? All the markets, all the news, and your own homemade, ready-made portfolio available there for you.
We will right now answer what you should sell, what you should buy when markets are down.
Download at ndtvprofit.com/apps. Get the best app from the channel you trust.